I've got good friends to the left of me and good friends to my right. Got the open sky above me and the earth beneath my feet. Got a song inside my heart that's singing all in like a sea. Oh, what a day. Oh, what a day. What a day. Glorious. All the clouds have gathered round the tops of trees. Oh, what a day. What a day. Glorious. Pitter patter, falling rain, I can't believe. All that's green lifts up its leaves, singing water, come on in. We've been waiting all these days, praying you would come to quench every yearning in our bones. Water with your life begins. Oh, what a day. Oh, is believing. Oh, has the wings of faith. Is a clear river of perceiving. All is well. Ooh, this is a friendly mystery. Oh, what a day. What a day. Glorious. Baby blue jay squawking in the cherry tree. Oh, what a day. What a day. Glorious. Deep in the night, we had a raccoon robbery. Pitter patter, little paws have left their footprints all around. Pitter patter, evidence some fruit has fallen to the ground. Pitter patter, sings my heart at the thought of what's to come. What a day. Is believing. Oh, has the wings of faith. Oh, is a clear river of perceiving. All is well. Ooh, this is a friendly mystery. All is well. Ooh, this is a friendly mystery. Oh, what a day. What a day. Glorious. Under the sky we slept last night, just you and me. Oh, what a day. What a day. Glorious. The waning moon, our cycle is almost complete. We've got good friends to the left of us and good friends to our right. We've got the open sky above us and the earth beneath our feet. Never fear, the birds are singing, even endings can be sweet. Oh, what a day. Never fear, the birds are singing, even endings can be sweet. Oh, what a day.
Welcome everyone. Hello, hello, good morning. Welcome to this Sunday morning UUCY service. I am Shawn Fink, your host, along with my special guests today, Dan Fink, your board chair, and our daughters, Jadyn and Liana Fink, who will be here mostly on video. We have a lot of videos today that we are going to be using. So the one thing I would like to ask is your patience in the transitions, because I'm still trying to figure all of that out. But We have a lot of fun planned for you, and I want to just take a minute to ask everyone to take a deep breath and get centered where you are in this space and time. It's so wonderful to be together, and to invite anyone who is new and visiting here today to feel welcome and to not be afraid to speak up at the end of our service, because we want to make sure that we say hello to you and that you feel safe and welcome here. We're going to begin today with our chalice lighting, and Dan is going to be doing our chalice lighting while I light the actual chalice.
Good morning, everyone. These are a few lines I wrote after Shawn and I spent some time on a walking trail near our house, and I think you'll be hearing about that in a little bit. When the birds' chirps and whistles make music to start the day, look up. When the sun sends its last streaks across the evening sky, look up. When the moon shines bright on a starry, starry night, look up. When swirling summer skies bring a baptism of cooling rain, look up.
Thank you.
She responded by half-ix. The birds' favorite songs you do not hear, for their most flamboyant music takes place when their wings are stretched above the trees and they are smoking the opium of pure freedom. It is healthy for the prisoner to have faith that one day he will again move about whenever he wants. Feel the wondrous grit of life, less structured. Find all the depths stamped, canceled, paid. I once asked a bird, "How is it that you fly in this gravity of darkness?" She responded, "Love lifts me."
This is the time in our service. If you have little ones that you want to bring in to be a part, it would be fine. It's also for all ages. So we will be just taking a little bit of time to practice a fun meditation that is called the nesting bird meditation. And this is actually a meditation that I learned years ago, many years ago, in a course at UUCY that was, I think, poetry and meditation. And I didn't stick long in that course, but the very first poem that we read was about a nesting bird. And so we were encouraged to practice the nesting bird meditation, which at the time, I will fully admit, was life-changing for me as a tired young person who thought meditation needed to look very formal on a cushion. The idea of the nesting meditation is as if you were a bird sitting on an egg and you're in your nest waiting. And I kind of feel that right now in 2020, we are all sitting on eggs waiting for whatever is yet to come. And it requires patience. And it requires nesting and being comfortable. And I think a lot of us are already doing a little bit of that, both in our homes and in our communities out in nature. So if you were to build the perfect nest to sit on for rest, for relaxation, for deep breathing, what would that look like? This is how I actually do meditation every morning. With a blanket, with several pillows around me, on my couch, in the most comfortable waiting position that I can find. So let's all imagine right now that we are on our comfy nests, and close your eyes if you feel safe and welcome to do so. And just allow yourselves to rest, as if you are waiting for an egg to hatch, as if you are waiting for what is yet to come. Take several deep breaths, 3 deep breaths. 1 for yourself, 1 for everyone you love, and 1 for the whole world. May your nests stay safe and sound, and may they remain a healing and comfortable place to be. Thank you for participating in that meditation. When you feel ready, open your eyes and return to the space and just say hi to everyone here this morning. Just give a wave. We're not talking, but just say hello to everyone. It's so good to be together. This morning's reading is by the Reverend Teresa Soto and her book, Spilling the Light, which I just recently discovered in a frenzy of finding more and more poems. Those of you who know me know that this is pretty much my religious practice of my spiritual practice is finding beautiful poems. Reverend Soto is a Unitarian minister, and she's a prolific writer, and her book is Spilling the Light, and it's just beautiful. This is called A Simple Hope. Last year, the It toy was some kind of beeping computerized egg. The frenzy and desperation reaching for the perfect gift. Sold out everywhere, this egg. Hope can be kind of like that. People strain and struggle for the perfect definition. Is it now? Or future perfect, as in Will we have survived? They argue over whether we even need a hope more present than a maybe, even when you don't feel it. A healthy hope is the power, and beyond that, the choosing to stay. Stay with the doubt and fear. Stay with the work that it takes to resist. Leave giving up for another day. You could wrestle the words or sensation of hope to the mat, or you could let this moment be enough. Belonging here together be sufficient. Feast on our irrepressible power to stay.
I remember being sound asleep in my bed when I heard my mom come in. I was wondering what was so important for her to wake me up this early, and then she told me, I have an important job for you, she said. There's a baby bird that needs your help. I walked up the street half asleep. When I saw a baby bird, who we later named Sammy, he was sitting on the sidewalk, fluffy and gray. He seemed cold, almost as though he was shivering. After all, the ground he was standing on was soaking wet from the very storm that had knocked him from his nest that night. With no hesitation, I grabbed Sammy and walked back to the house. Luckily, my mom's friend is a pro at taking in early orphan baby birds, so she helped us through the first few days. We fed him wet dog food and apples. I kept him on the top of a cart with a heating pad and a lot of towels because he pooped a lot. He slept up at the top of the cart with his head in his feathers and never moved all night. And around 8 every morning, he woke me up by a gentle chirping. He was just less than a foot away, so it didn't take much. Having Sammy required 24/7 attention, which meant he almost never left my side. He became my best friend. Wherever I went, he went. That is until he started to fly. I woke up to his chirping one morning, but not in his usual spot in the room. But he had flown down to my bed and into my sheets. He was hungry and had to let me know. That day, we moved him into the backyard. Sammy learned to live in our backyard and travel to trees down the street. A few days ago, we went on a day trip, only to find that one of our neighbors had posted a picture on Facebook, saying, "Anyone know what kind of bird this is? It seems to be really friendly." And of course, it was Sammy, badgering other humans for food since we weren't there to give him any. He would harass us when we went to our backyard. My mom hated it. I thought it was cute. He was sitting on a chair right outside our door, chirping, waiting for us to feed him, or he would stalk us through the window of our living room. But when he wasn't hungry, he would spend most of his days down the road in trees, sleeping and relaxing. First time he left us, me and my mom cried. After all, I had never been away from him that long. But soon enough, he came back the next morning. On July 26th, we took Sammy to a local park and set him free. We knew it was time because he would not let us hold or pet him anymore. He loved to be pet and held before. So let's just say getting him to the park was a little bit of a challenge. We let him go after 3 weeks. He was amazing, and I will always think of him because 2020 has brought a lot of horrible things. But to my surprise, it brought me Sammy, and he made every day so worth it. I remember being sound asleep in my bed when
That was Liana's recording. Dan, I believe you're up with Hope is a Thing with Feathers, Part 2.
So taking care of a baby bird was a new experience for us. There have been lots of other animals around here. We've had guinea pigs and fish. We have hamsters now. And of course, we have Oliver, the dog. We've seen rabbits, frogs, and groundhogs in the backyard. We have ducks that visit for a week or two every early spring. We even saw a fox once. And our rule about all these animals that we see out in nature is always look, don't touch. But a baby bird was new, and we made an exception. Sammy seemed so helpless. We had some homework to do to be good parents, good bird parents. We figured out Sammy was a cedar waxwing. They get their name from the fact that they like the berries from the cedar bush. We figured out what kind of foods he likes, berries, particularly blackberries, and he would snap up the insects that came close to him. His chirp became familiar, and we saw him get better at flying, which he could not really do when we found him. Eventually, as you heard, he was flying all around the neighborhood. We learned a few things about ourselves along the way, too. I think the four of us all kind of knew this
Oh, you cut out, Dan. Dan, your sound is off.
For a meal. He was so defenseless. But okay, circle of life, we told ourselves. We had tried. Eventually, though, as Liana said, he showed up for his morning meal, and you would have thought we were greeting a long-lost relative. And I wondered why. Why was this? Why had we come to care so much about that little bird? Here we are in the middle of this pandemic, and the whole mask back and forth is wearing on all of us. We have had these protests happening with outrageous interventions by federal officers, making us angrier every day. There's a presidential election less than 100 days away. Schools are about to reopen. It's a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety. And I think Sammy pulled us out of all that for a little bit. He reminded us that in spite of it all, we are all still connected here on our blue boat home. We are all still part of the interdependent web of all existence. And when we tend to that web, whether it's helping a tiny baby bird or our fellow humans, we feel good. The Dalai Lama says, when we feel love and kindness toward others, it not only makes others feel loved and cared for, but it helps us also to develop inner happiness and peace. Sammy made us happy. It really was that simple. He reminded us that caring for each other helps us all feel a little bit better. And there's hope in that.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend, and I'm a long way from home. From home. from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone, a long way from home, a long way from home.
Thank you to Gretchen Decker and Avery Clark for that beautiful recording. Great timely hymn. So now, my version of the Sammy story. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. I never fully understood the praise of hope that Emily Dickinson's poem, Hope is a Thing with Feathers, offered until I became a bird mom in the middle of the pandemic. The truth is that Sammy's arrival in our lives came at a pretty difficult time. Not only were we 115 days into this pandemic that has stripped away all life as we knew it, but it was also a stormy week emotionally. Tensions from this stressful time had led to a loss of a few friendships in the girls' lives that very week. Sammy and siblings were knocked out of its nest during a thunderstorm. Not only that, but we were still hurting from the decision to cancel 2 of 3 vacations for the summer, including our annual trip to see my family down south. And then there was this. Just what do you do with 14-year-old girls in a pandemic after 100 days? Life was feeling pretty hopeless, especially in the eyes of the teenagers that week. And I was at a loss of how to move forward. And then Sammy showed up on the sidewalk, chirping its little heart out to anyone who passed. Sammy brought purpose and joy and hope. But as we would soon learn, Sammy would also bring struggle, grief, and regret. But my sermon isn't so much about Sammy as it is about the hope we need to cling to right now in these uncertain and challenging times. It's about how we need to cling to hope like talons on a branch in a storm. And how we need to cling to the hope that we are all going to be okay. Sammy was a motherless child that couldn't fly when we found it on the ground that Monday after Independence Day. Soon though, Sammy could fly and land on things like low-hanging branches and tables. As a teenager mom, I confess, I grew attached to seeing all of these firsts unfold. Like the first night Sammy stayed outside all alone. Each morning I woke to hear the Sammy feed me chirp. This bird did not know the rules about no talking before coffee. But one night, Sammy disappeared from the lilac bush where it had been living, and we thought for sure we had failed as bird parents. Grief settled in. I sat crying with Liana on the back patio at dusk. We thought we failed Sammy. Then, because hope is a thing with feathers, around 7 in the morning the next day, Sammy returned, chirping and flying at our kitchen window in what would become the new normal Sammy routine, disappearing into the trees to sleep at night and returning for a fruit breakfast the next morning. Our grief turned into joy, our joy into regret, our regret into hope. One thing was clear. We loved Sammy. We cared about Sammy's future. We also struggled with our choice. Hope is a tricky thing. It's one positive emotion that cannot and will not show up for us if we aren't experiencing a struggle or conflict. In other words, we can't experience true hope without darkness or adversity. When life is perfect, and it rarely is, we don't need hope. Hope requires negativity or uncertainty to flourish, according to Dan Tomasulo's new book, Learned Hopefulness. This past year, I became trained and certified in positive psychology. I graduated in April at the peak of the shelter in place. My own research and project had centered around resiliency, but it was hope that I was clinging to that day in April when we all graduated via a 3-day Zoom session instead of our week-long celebration at Kripalu. I needed hope like air. I needed hope to drink my coffee with each morning and each afternoon when I read the news, and more still when I walked in the silence of the drastically changed world all around us. And so I began to research more about hope and to build my own hope practice. Another interesting fact about hope is that we must actively work to experience it by turning to other positive emotions. So when we employ feelings such as joy, gratitude, inspiration, and love, we are more likely to feel hopeful. And so at the peak of the quietest moments of the pandemic, seeking hope, Dan and I began walking daily at the UPMC Wellness Trail. It's only 2 minutes from our house, and every single walk lifted us up in love, interest, and inspiration. We gained perspective every single time we walked as we watched the seasons unfold. We returned home with smiles on our faces, eager to return again and again, because every change in the season and scenery brought us a glimmer of hope. I wrote notes in my phone along the path, notes like, she finds hope in the drops of dew resting on blades of grass that look like tears waiting for the sun to wipe them away like the brush of a hand. She finds hope in the ruffled feathers of birds sitting on the tips of wet tree branches, singing their soul songs for anyone and everyone to hear without an ounce of self-doubt. Sammy's arrival into our lives then only added to that spark of hope we needed as the heat of summer set in. Sammy gave us a purpose, a mission. We felt our interconnectedness. We wanted to give hope to Sammy as well. And in many ways, because Sammy was a motherless child, I started to worry. I worried if the bird would fit in after being raised by humans and not other birds. Will Sammy become a freak bird laughed at by other winged and feathered creatures? Will Sammy not be able to make it through life and need to rely on us forever? Will we be stuck with Sammy forever, feeding it mushed up blueberries and blackberries every couple of hours? And yet, I was having similar worries about the pandemic. Will we be stuck in our homes forever? Are we losing all of our connections and support? When will we be free again to live our lives more normally? Recently, very recently, we knew we needed to set Sammy free to thrive as a wild bird. We knew, and yet we didn't want to take the chance because we knew We weren't sure if Sammy could make it on its own in the wild, but we also knew that keeping the bird was not going to work. We kept delaying until finally we had no choice. Sammy was landing on all of our neighbors' shoulders. What if he doesn't make it out there in the big, scary world? Well, we made the hard decision to release Sammy last Sunday at a park we visit often. We released Sammy with a praise of hope, being a thing with feathers. Isn't this what it takes to feel hope? To choose to focus on what could be rather than the grief and the loss. Hope is about opening a door of possibility and soaring toward it, even if you have no idea what the ending is going to be. Just before we released Sammy, I read the poem She Responded by Hafiz that Jadyn read at the start of today's service. The part of that poem that fills me with hope is this. I once asked a bird, how is it that you fly in this gravity of darkness? She responded, love lifts me. Because yes, one day we will all move about again, whenever and wherever we want. We know this will be true. We will be free one day. We will feel the wondrous grit of life, the less structured kind. We will sing together again. We will laugh together again. We will travel together again. Love will lift us all. And who knows, maybe we'll cross paths with Sammy again someday too. It is this time in our service when we are going to open it up to you to fill the chat with your hopes, your joys, your sorrows, your gratitudes, and any other things that you're feeling right now. If you please just add your, I will say them out loud as you type them, but if you would just type them in the chat, we will hold space for you and what's going on with you right now.
Every time I feel this way, this old familiar saying, I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry. Hallelujah. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. Hallelujah. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. Hallelujah. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. By and by, I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry. It's been said, and I do believe, as you ask, so shall you receive. So take from me these troubles, bring me sweet release, where the river will never run dry.
Contribution to our Sunday offering. Our offering not only helps to support the work of the congregation, it helps to support our current Share the Plate partner, UU Plan. Information about ways to contribute online were included in the recent e-blast about this service. It is also on our website under the menu Give. We give thanks for the many blessings we have each received in our lives, and we acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. May we use these gifts wisely and well. This is a moment of contemplation with a poem that I love from another UU congregation that put this out there.
I share with you the words of Mason Bolton. Good morning. I missed your good because a plane, because a truck, because a gun, because a cop, because a government, because of people suffering, because too many people suffering, because war, because famine, because some mornings it is so hard to rise, to wake, to be a self. There's a pause here. There is a deliberate cessation. I want a cessation to the noise in my head, to the ache in the collective heart of this world. When I was young, this seemed possible. When I was young, hope seemed to spring eternal. I want to write about butterflies and the cracked edges of tree bark pressing like a holy mother into palms. I want to write about the joy of children's cries, about birth, about the arch of your smile, how I could lose myself in the corners of your sweet and grinning mouth. This is you. This is you reading this. I want for your joy. I want to lose myself in you. I want your mornings good, your evenings good, all of the late nights and sunrises and afternoons and moments pressed against the ticking glass of your life good. Breathe for yourself, for each other. Let us breathe in when others cannot. When we can do nothing else, let us stretch ourselves open to embrace our friends, to extend our bodies open to anyone willing to meet us, or even to meet those we think may not. Let us hold each other for this moment, for this blink of human existence. Here ends our reading.
There we go. Now we're good.
We Hold Hope Close by Teresa Soto. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that we cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream, and by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home.
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this service. I welcome you to ask questions or reflect upon what hope means to you or where you are finding hope at this point. And thank you for being such a great audience with all of my technology things. Thank you so much. This concludes our service.